This is lesson 3.1, Graphing Linear Equations. Your objectives are to identify linear equations, intercepts and zeros, and graph linear equations. A linear equation is an equation that can be written in the form ax plus by equals c. This is standard form of a linear equation. So a linear equation, when it's graphed on the coordinate plane, it will form a line. Ax plus by equals c is standard form. X and y will be x and y, a, b, and c will be numbers, and they have special rules. A has to be positive. A and b are not both 0. That means one of them could be, but not both of them. And a, b, and c are integers with the greatest common factor of 1. So just remember, it has to be in that order. The x's, then the y's, then the equals, and then c, which is a constant number. A is positive, a and b are not both 0, and a, b, and c are all integers with no common factors. Determine whether each equation is a linear equation. Write yes or no. If yes, write the equation in standard form. Number 1, 2x equals 4y. Well, there's no x squareds, y squareds, or x times y's, so this is, yes, a linear equation. Now write it in standard form. You need the x's and the y's on the left and the constants on the right. So we need to move the y's over to the left. To move them, subtract 4y from each side. That gives you 2x minus 4y on the left, and on the right, 4y minus 4y is 0. So everything's in order now. A is positive, it's a 2. A is 2 and B is negative 4, so they're not both 0, but I do see a common factor. 2, negative 4, and 0 are divisible by 2. So if I divide everything by 2, then that will reduce it. 2x divided by 2 is 1x, or x. Negative 4y divided by 2 is negative 2y. And 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So now it's finished. Get everything in order and make sure that everything is reduced properly. Number 2, 6 plus y equals 8. There aren't any x squareds, y squareds, or x times y's. So yes, it's linear. Now get it in standard form. I have a constant on the left that needs moved to the right. It's a 6 plus y, positive 6 there. Subtract it to move it to the other side. 6 minus 6 is 0, leaving y. 8 minus 6 is 2. Now there are no x's, so that means we have a 0 times x plus 1 times y equals 2 there. So this is finished. Notice this is also 0x plus y equals 2, which means that a is 0. A can be 0, as long as a and b are not both 0. So just remember that. The leading number needs to be positive, and if all we have are y's, then that needs to be a positive number of y's. If the leading number is the amount of x's, then that needs to be a positive number of x's. So whichever one is the first term, that one's positive. In this case, though, a is 0, and that's fine. Y equals 2 is the final answer. Number 3, 4x minus 2y equals negative 1. No x squareds, no y squareds, no xy's. This is linear. To get it in standard form, the x's are first, the y's second, and the constants on the right. And there are no common factors between 4, negative 2, and negative 1. So this is finished the way it stands. Number 4. 3xy plus 8 equals 4y. Well, I have an xy, so this one is no. It's not a linear equation. You can't have x times y. Number 6, y equals x squared plus 7. Well, you can't have an x squared, so that's not a linear function. No x squareds, no y squareds, no x times y's. Number 10, 2 plus half x equals y. Well, there's no x squareds and no y squareds and no x times y's, so this is linear. Now let's put it in standard form. The x's are on the left, but there's also constants on the left. Those need moved. Subtract 2 from each side. 2 minus 2 is 0 on the left. 0 plus half x is half x. On the right, you have y minus 2. You have y's on the right. Those need to be on the left. That's a positive y, so let's subtract y from both sides. Always check the sign in front of what you're moving. Do the opposite of that. That's a positive y. Subtract y, because that's the opposite. You have half x minus y on the left, and a negative 2 on the right, because y minus y was 0. 0 minus 2 is just negative 2. Now these all have to be integers, but I have a half for the x. To get rid of the fractions, multiply everything by the lowest common denominator. So since I just have one fraction, multiply it by that 2. Both sides. 2 times half x is x. 2 times negative y is negative 2y. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. A is positive 1, so it's good. 1, negative 2, and negative 4 do not have any common factors, so this one is finished. (11) 1/4 y equals 12 minus 4x. There's no x squareds, y squareds, or xy's, so this is linear. I have my y's on the left, I have my constants on the right, but I also have x's on the right, and I need the x's to be on the left. The 4x is being subtracted, so let's do the opposite and add 4x to both sides. Remember, always do the opposite operation to move something to the other side. On the left we have 4x plus 1/4 y. I wrote it that way because I know I want the x's first. 1/4 y plus 4x is the same as 4x plus 1/4 y. You're just moving it around the addition sign. On the right, you have 12. Everything's in the right place now, but I don't want any fractions. Multiply everything by that denominator of 4. Both sides times 4. Distribute on the left. 4 times 4x is 16x. 4 times 1/4 y is 1y, which is just y. And 4 times 12 is 48. The 16's positive. 16, 1, and 48 do not have any common factors between all three of them. So this is finished. Number 18. X squared equals 2xy. Well, this one's definitely a no. You can't have x squareds, and you can't have x times y. Either one of them would have made it a no, but we have two of them, and it's still a no. So remember for these, if there's any x squareds, y squareds, or x times y's, it's not linear. If it is linear, write it in the form ax plus by equals c. Where a is positive, A and B are not both 0, and all three of those numbers are integers that don't have any common factors. Make sure everything is in order on the side of the equal sign that it needs to be, and everything is simplified. No fractions, and everything is good to go. Graphing linear equations. The graph of a linear equation represents all of the solutions of the equation. An x-coordinate of the point at which a graph of an equation crosses the x-axis is called the x-intercept. The y-coordinate at the point where the graph crosses the y-axis is called a y-intercept. So we're going to do graphing using the x and y intercepts, and we're going to do graphing by using a table. The result will be a straight line. Graph each equation by using the x and y intercepts. Number 1, 2x plus y equals negative 2. Well, for the x-intercept, remember it says to make y equals 0 and solve for x. So 2x plus not y, put a 0, and that equals negative 2. Now solve for x. 2x plus 0 is just 2x. That's 2 times x, so do the opposite and divide by 2. The 2's cancel on the left, leaving x. Negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. So the x-intercept is negative 1. That's the coordinates negative 1 comma 0, because x is negative 1 when y is 0. For the y-intercept, make x equal 0 and solve for y. So 2 times 0 plus y equals negative 2. 2 times 0 is 0. 0 plus y is just y. And you're left with y equals negative 2. So the y-intercept is negative 2. That's the coordinates 0 comma negative 2, where x is 0 and y is negative 2. You have the intercepts. Now connect those dots, and there's your line. You always need 2 points to make a line, so use the x and y intercepts. For the x-intercept, make y equal 0, and for the y-intercept, make x equal 0. Now remember, the reason that works is because for the x-intercept, it's where the graph crosses the x-axis. Any point on the x-axis didn't go up or down any, so the y-coordinate has to be 0. For the y-intercept, that's on the y-axis, and you don't go left or right any on the y-intercept. And that's why x equals 0. That's why that works. It just makes sense. Number 2, 3x minus 6y equals negative 3. Find the intercepts. For the x-intercept, make y equal 0. So that gives you 3x minus 6 times 0 equals negative 3. 6 times 0 is 0. 3x minus 0 is still just 3x. Notice, the whole term with the variable y in it disappears. Equals negative 3. 3x equals negative 3. Divide both sides by that 3 to move it. The 3's cancel on the left, and negative 3 divided by 3 is negative 1. So negative 1 is the x-intercept. That's the point negative 1 comma 0. For the y-intercept, make x equal 0. 3 times 0 minus 6y equals negative 3. 3 times 0 is 0, leaving just negative 6y. Divide both sides by negative 6. The negative 6's cancel on the left, leaving y, and negative 3 divided by negative 6 is 1/2. So plot the y-intercept at 1/2, 0 comma 1/2. So we have the intercepts now. Connect those dots, and your line is drawn. Remember, for the x-intercept, make y equals 0, and for the y-intercept, make x equals 0. Graph each equation by making a table. Number 4, y equals 2x. Start by solving the equation for y, and this one already is solved for y, so we can make the table now. Have an x column, a column for whatever y equals, which is 2x, and a y column. Have your x values go from -2 to +2. And then we'll substitute each x value in for the middle column and find out what y equals. For the first row, x is -2, so 2 times -2 is -4. The next row, 2 times -1 is -2. The third row, 2 times 0 is 0. The fourth row, 2 times 1 is 2. And the bottom row, 2 times 2 is 4. So each time we're substituting in the x values and solving for the y value. Now I have a set of points. The top row has the point -2, -4 right there. The next one is -1, -2. I'm using the x value and the corresponding y value. The next row is 0, 0. The next one is 1, 2. And the bottom row, x is 2, y is 4. So that gives us our points. Connect the dots, and we have it. So again, make your x values -2 to +2. Substitute into the equation, find out what y is, and then plot those points. -2, -4 is right there. -1, -2 is right there. 0, 0 is there. 1, 2 is there. And 2, 4 is there. Connect the dots, and you have your line. Number 6, x plus 2y equals 4. We'll first solve for y. Get rid of what's added or subtracted first, and that's the x. That's a positive x, so subtract it from each side. X minus x is 0, so it cancels on the left, leaving 2y. And you simply have 4 minus x on the right. Now you have 2 times y, so do the opposite and divide both sides by 2. So y equals 4 minus x all over 2. So now make your table. You have an x column, a column of what y equals, which is 4 minus x all over 2, and then a y column. Now since we're dividing by 2 in the middle there, let's choose x values that would give us even numbers in the numerator so that when we divide by 2 we have integers. So let's just use even x values. -2, 0, 2, and 4. I'm just thinking ahead there. Since I'm going to be dividing by 2, let's use even numbers because 4 minus an even number is even, and an even divided by 2 is an integer. Next, substitute the x values in. When x is -2, that's 4 minus -2 all over 2. 4 minus -2 is really 4 plus 2, which is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. When x is 0, 4 minus 0 all over 2. 4 minus 0 is 4, divided by 2 is 2. When x is 2, 4 minus 2 all over 2. 4 minus 2 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. And when x is 4, it's 4 minus 4, divided by 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. And now I can plot those points. The top row is negative 2 comma 3. The next row is 0 comma 2, then 2 comma 1, and then 4 comma 0. Now I've got those points and I can connect the dots, and you've got your line. And again, those points came from negative 2 comma 3 is there, 0 comma 2 is there, 2 comma 1 is there, and 4 comma 0 is there. Solve for y, pick your x values. We could have used the regular x values, but we would have gotten decimals, which is fine. But I just wanted to make sure that they were all integers for us here. If you did it with other values and got decimals, you still would have gotten the same line when it was all said and done. So solve for your y's, plot the points, and connect the dots. So remember, for the graphing, when you graph using x and y intercepts, for the x-intercept make y equals 0 and solve for x. For the y-intercept make x equals 0 and solve for y. Plot those 2 points and connect the dots. When it says graph to make a table, solve for y and make a table. A column of x values, which most of the time goes from negative 2 to positive 2. The middle column is whatever y equals, and you'll substitute those x values into that column. When you work that out, you get your y column. Plot those points and connect the dots.